Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Commander Clash podcast. This week, we are going to be covering all the brand new cards in Brothers War, and we're selecting our top favorite cards from the entire set. So this includes the standard cards that are going to be in the draft boosters and everything like that, as well as the collector cards. What are those called? The ones that are like in set boosters and stuff only.
Set booster? Exclusives?
Set booster cards? Set booster exclusives? They're not standard legal. They're constructed legal and other stuff. And also the brand new commander cards in the Brothers War precons. And also finally the Transformers cards that can also be found in the draft boosters and collectors and they are still Brothers War cards, Seth. Joining me, as always, to discuss all these brand new cards is the Booer, Seth, better known as Syphon Mind. How's it going, Seth?
I was doing good until we started talking about Transformers cards in Brothers War, but other than that, I'm doing lovely.
Seth was just celebrating Halloween, because that's why you would boo that.
I
nobody
was
booed
not
Transformers.
saying boo earns. Yes, I was actually saying.
Oh yeah, I was hearing boo earns. I don't know what you're complaining about. They're clearly artifact creatures, which is the whole theme of Brothers War.
That's true.
I'm pretty sure
That's
Urza defeated Mishra with Optimus Prime.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
actually, that's the untold
canon.
side
That's
of
canon.
war.
Canon, yeah.
Yo,
Yeah.
you don't know what happened behind the scenes, so don't, it could have happened. I'll take that.
Isn't Optimus Prime and Megatron, aren't they brothers? So it's kind of like a Brother War?
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I'll go with you guys on that one.
Maybe it's the symbolism. But joining me on team, I think you're a Decepticon, actually, Krim. Team Decepticons.
Yes,
the Asian Invasion. The Asian Avenger. I don't even know what I just said. The Asian Avenger. The Asian Invasion.
It rhymes.
That's the next set, actually. That's after the Phyrexian invasion. That's the Asian invasion.
No, dude, no.
Because actually, you've already invaded the crew of Marvel Snap. How dare you?
That's true. I did get us all into that. That was a fun Magic 30 where we didn't play Magic and played Marvel Snap.
We played a lot of Magic.
there was a lot of
Okay,
Magic.
we played a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But now we're not going to be talking about any more Marvel Snap. We're going to be talking about the new set and all our favorite cards. As usual, this is a top X. I don't know. We're going to fill out an hour worth of discussion. And it's not also a power ranking guide. Like, we're not doing like top 10 most powerful cards from Brothers War. People who focus on like CDH and stuff are much better suited to analyze and discuss that from like the top level power. We just talk about it, the stuff we're hyped for, the stuff that we are the most excited to get our hands on and play test and tinker around with. So it's going to be very different. And it's just opinion based. Obviously, your hype list is going to be different than ours. We're just going to talk about our favorite cards. So we're going to kick things off with Seth. What is one of the cards that you are very excited to play with from Brothers War?
Ooh, so this is one of the set booster cards, and it is such a cool design, and that is Disciple of Callous Nin. So it's a 5-mana 3/4 white human wizard, and it said when it enters the battlefield, starting with you, each player chooses up to 5 permanents they control, not non-land permanents, any permanents, and all other permanents other than those permanents in Disciple of Callous Nin itself that weren't chosen phase out, and permanents can't phase in. So essentially, when you play this, everyone's going down to 5 permanents, including lands. So you got to phase out your lands as well, and as long as Disciple stays on the battlefield, all those things that phase out won't phase back in, and anything else that may be phased out in other ways also won't be able to phase back in. So I think this card, it's just kind of a funny card to play fairly. Like, you run it out and it's kind of like a super wrath that's going to probably get rid of almost all the non-land permanents and maybe some of your opponent's lands as well. There's a little risk here because I think one thing that could happen is you play this and your opponents are like, all right, we'll phase out all of our lands because you got to choose first. So you choose, your opponent's like, okay, we'll phase out all of our lands and just keep our creatures and try to kill you. That is the risk. But why this card is on my list and why I love it so much is it is a hilarious way to get people who Teferi's Protection. And I'm a little tired of people just willy-nilly firing off their Teferi's Protection. Letting someone Teferi's Protection away all their permanents and then casting this so they can't phase back in is so awesome. I know their life total can't change. They probably end up technically winning the game, but do they really win the game if they can never phase back in? Like, if they can never come back into play and can't play Magic anymore, don't you really kind of win anyway, even if you eventually, like, mill out or whatever because your opponent's phased out and can't draw cards for the rest of the game? So I just think it's a really sweet design.
That's great.
Well, their life total is only until until your next turn. So their stuff won't phase back in, but after that's even
better than I thought. I was thinking,
you can just kill them.
Oh, see, that's even better.
Yeah,
but that's the dream. I've also heard some people say play Hive Mind and Teferi's Protection, so your opponents have to Teferi's Protection, and then you play this, and you just like phase everyone else out forever. So good.
That's perfect.
That worries is it's more consistent than, I guess, a pact where you kill them if they don't have the corresponding color. This will just hit anybody regardless. I know that's definitely Christmas land for sure, because it's like you need them to Teferi's Protection, and you need them to be phased out already by the time you cast this. So you have to get them to Teferi's Protection, and then you follow up with this before they can take their turn.
I think, one of the things I really like about it, though, is Wizards has really started pushing phasing again in, like, the last couple of years. And it's pretty much no downside at this point. There's no way to, like, I phase out my thing and get punished for it. So I like that this, I don't know, it adds some risk to phasing out your stuff. If you're going to just willy-nilly phase out my entire board to survive a Wrath, at least you have to think about this in the back of your mind. Like, what if they have Disciple? Like, that could get me here. So I like when there's counterplay like that, and phasing just hasn't had counterplay before. Plus, the idea of getting someone who Teferi's Protection is just, that's like such a good gotcha.
How does this work if there's another one?
What do you mean?
Like so hold on. So if Callous Nin, right, you phase out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what happens if someone else does this before you? Like, or like if I'm like able to like instant speed on the like get tutor this onto the board, does that mean none of the stuff phased out comes back?
I mean, none of the stuff phased out comes back as long as this sticks around, right?
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay.
So even with one of them, nothing comes back. Although if someone kills the Disciple, then stuff will come back into play normally on the next upkeep. So I don't think two of them really changes anything as far as I can tell.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
If you have more than 5 permanents after the first one comes out, then you'll have to phase something out again.
Right.
But, okay.
What do you think of this as land hate? Like, is this a card, like, we always talk about green, like, getting far ahead in lands. Is there any way this is... I want to know how playable this card is when it's not a hilarious troll gotcha kind of card. Like, is this something you can just jam in a deck and be like, the green player's getting out of control, they got way more lands than me, we'll phase them down, we'll get some of their lands out of the way, or isn't it that good?
I don't know why this doesn't have flash and isn't like 3 or 4 mana.
I think it should have flash. Yeah.
This card is like it's like sitting in front of you. You're gonna see it, and there's no sneaky way to do it unless you like Court of Calling into it or something like that, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I like the idea of like not letting things phase back in to exactly do that, punish like a Teferi's Pro, but like you kind of see it coming, and it costs a lot of mana. It costs a lot of mana.
It is 5.
Yeah. I like the idea of getting somebody with Teferi's Protection. That's definitely like a bucket list challenge. Yeah. But I don't think it's incredibly effective as a general thing. It's more like a stopgap. Like it's kind of like a speed bump. You know, like if somebody's ramping really hard or something, has a lot of treasures, then you put this on the battlefield, and they basically are slowed down significantly until somebody finds a removal for it. Mm-hmm. Which is good. I mean, if it's sticking around for a couple turns, like 1, 2, 3, like hopefully like three or so turns, 3 turns of them being super far behind and allowing you to catch up is good. But I just don't know how good it is for 5 mana. It's like it's no.
At that point, does green not already have its kind of like already have everything turning, right? Like, I mean, they can phase out mana rocks, they can phase out token, whatever, right? They can phase out a lot of things, right? But that's why this card should have had flash and probably been 3 mana.
I don't know if flash and 3 mana, but
everything is the opposition agent to Grim. If it was an opposition agent, it would be better.
And it should draw you a card.
Okay, I don't think it needs to draw you a card, but like I genuinely think this card should have been cheaper. At least 3 to 4 mana and have flash. Right? Like this card just I like it. I like what it does. I just think that it comes at an awkward point where, like, if you're trying to slow down ramp, it doesn't matter, right? They've already gone, like, into full effect.
I think maybe this is the first attempt at hating on phasing. Like, and it probably makes sense not to, like, push it to the max on the first attempt and see how this plays out. And then they can always, like, print something else that's flashy or a little cheaper in the future. But I'm still excited to play this card.
I think it's cute. I think if I was designing phase hate, if it was phasing hate, I would be like 1 mana. Cards that phase out this turn don't ever phase back in, you know, and then it has cycling or something, cycling 2. So when it's not relevant in a game, you can cycle it away. Something like that would be really cool.
Wait, wouldn't that just like be if you cast Teferi's Protection? I have this, you just auto lose essentially, like you're just done.
Good.
Yeah.
Teferi's Protection is boring. All right,
It's true.
Every single white deck has it because it's just too good. So it'd be nice to just put some fear into people.
I agree with that.
I don't know if it's boring, but I do like putting the fear in.
It's a cool card. I think it's a legitimately cool card, and I was in love with this card. It's just it's so good. It's like the best protection spell in the game.
Fully.
By so much. It's kind of like Cyclonic Rift. Like, Cyclonic Rift is a great card, but, like, you know, when you see Cyclonic Rift every single game, you're like, oh, okay, you know, it loses lackluster a little bit. So having something to be just like, bam, that's what you get.
None of those cards are that bad. It's fine.
I
like
counterplay.
I like counterplay.
Counterplay is good.
Teferi's Protection does get more boring every time it's cast. Like, when I first started playing with it and seeing people playing with it, it was pretty exciting. I'm like, oh, do they have it? Like, what a awesome play. But after a couple years, it's kind of like, oh, that again. Yeah, hooray for Teferi's Protection.
Phasing is just cool, too, right? Like, it's just like, it's a cool card.
Is that any more boring than, like, I don't know, I played another ramp spell, right? Like, to me, that's the same effect. I genuinely just look at them the same. It's like, cool, all right. I guess I haven't gotten bored of those cards, but
I'm not.
I do like counterplay, and I'm always on board for anything counterplay. I just wish this was a better counterplay.
Yeah, in terms of counterplay for a ramp, I think it is good. I think, like, you drop this, if you, like, ramp this out on turn 4 or something, and you don't phase out anything, but, like, the green player just lost, like, 3 or 4 lands, like, that is going to put them behind. Or if it's later in the game, I think it's going to be even more relevant because people will have even bigger board states and you'll have more stuff phase out. It's just that it doesn't have any sort of protection, so you really need ways of protecting it. And once it is removed, like, you know, everybody's back to normal. Like, I mean, obviously they couldn't use those lands to cast more spells and stuff. That's why it's relevant. But, like, I don't know. It's 5 mana. It's 5 mana sorcery speed on a creature.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. But
I like the
idea of it, even if it maybe isn't 100% of the way there yet, power level wise.
Yeah. But anywho, we'll move on from our first card to the second card. Krim, what do you got for us?
Well, congratulations, Red. You have a new staple. I'm choosing Brotherhood's End. 1 red. Choose one. Deal 3 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Second mode. Destroy all artifacts with mana value 3 or less. I think this card's a red staple. It's just amazing. Like, everything, like, obviously in CDH it gets even better, that second mode. But, like, because, like, oftentimes Anger of the Gods, Sweltering Suns, those effects just aren't enough because it's just 3 damage, right? No one cares. Unless you're playing Torbrand. But, like, the fact that this can also hit planeswalkers, pretty good, right? And then, like, the main thing is that second mode. That's what's going to matter the most because in Commander, everybody plays Mana Rocks. And it's nice to know. Except for green because they don't need it. But, like, the thing here is, like, yeah, it's nice to know that I can just blow up a Signet. Even green plays a Soul Ring because Soul Ring's just good, right? So, like, being able to pick off, like, you know, if you're like me and you never have the turn 1 Soul Ring like Phil or anything like that, you're relying on something like this to clean everybody off the board so that they have to just play, hey, you know what, a fair game. Like, so I like this. I think blowing up everyone's Mana Rock is going to probably get you killed, but at the same time, it's a statement. Fast mana, Mana Rocks, get out of here. I love this. I think this is so good at destroying people setting up who kept hands that are entirely dependent on their rocks. This is great.
I have a question about this card. Why is blowing up everyone's Mana Rocks fair game and blowing up people's lands not fair game? When, as far as how the game functions, the impact is very similar, right? Like, you're losing mana either way. Why do Commander players just broadly accept getting Vandal Blasted when if you Armageddon, like, everyone's at your throat and, like, you did something wrong?
Hear me out. They aren't that different. They aren't that different. It's just all in the eye of how people, like, what people have been told, what is considered taboo and what isn't in Commander. So that's why.
I think the difference usually is that a lot of decks that have mana rocks still have lands on the battlefield. So if you blow up all the mana rocks, at least they can cast some spells. But, like, if you Armageddon people and they don't really have many mana rocks on the battlefield, then they don't really get to play Magic. So it's just it's a bigger level of denial.
Play more mana rocks then. That's on you. Should have played Mana Rock.
I mean, in theory, that is correct, right, Tomer? But, like, oftentimes, how many times do you see people keep hands that are just, like, Mana Rock heavier and, like, still light on lands anyways, right? So, whereas, I'm not going to lie to you, I think this is probably going to be better than Armageddon somebody. Because if you try to Armageddon me, I never get more than 3 lands anyways. So joke's on you. I'll probably have more mana rocks, though, than I will.
So right? You smack him with this afterwards,
yeah, then you get me good. But outside of that, do you agree or disagree? Like, I think this is a red staple. Like, this is so very good.
The flexibility is very nice. Obviously, I think, like, if you're a low curve, very low curve, then this becomes even better. I'm terrified because I have a artifact deck, and this will not just get my mana rocks; it's going to get my mana dorks and also some of my lands, which it's a little dicey for me. I'm sweating a little bit here.
It's also really good against equipment. If you think about the most popular equipment, Skull Clamp, Boots, Lightning Greave Swords, Sword of the Animus, like, it gets pretty much all the good equipment. It gets pretty much all the mana rocks. Cauldra survives. Yeah, play more Cauldra. It gets
I keep telling people to play more Cauldra, but nobody listens. I don't know why.
Homer foresaw this.
I think Krim is right that this is a staple level card. Although it's just weird to me that I think in Commander you play it for the artifact mode, and then the creature mode is the, like, once in a while back up, like, it happens to be the right situation. So, because I think that, like, Anger the Gods effects are, like, actively bad in Commander, and I would never play them. But if your goal is to blow up everyone's mana rocks in equipment, like, this card's pretty good at it. And you get the upside of, maybe someone's playing an elf deck and has a bunch of mana dorks, and you can get them too.
Yeah, because late game, this card is like like the 3 damage effects are kind of like a meme, right? Everybody's got like a 52, right? But you may be able to, like, pick off and get rid of a lot of problematic artifacts, like you had mentioned, Boots, and the Soul Rings and all of that. So
and treasure tokens, get rid of all the treasure tokens that are building up and all that stuff too.
And this is friendly in also in an aggro deck. Like, I foresee me actually trying this out in my humans deck because, like you had mentioned, right, Tomer, lower curve. I don't need a silly amount of mana rocks, right? So I'm probably just going to play this, try to blow up all your setup, and then just continue to pressure the whole board, right? Yep. And then, like, on top of that, humans can grow pretty quick. Any kind of aggro tribal deck probably has a Lord effect. You can grow past the 3 damage and maybe, like, pick off a bunch of, like, cheaper creatures, too.
Also, Gruul decks, where you have the green ramp, so you don't need to play mana rocks.
Yeah.
I think Gruul decks is where it's going to be, like, the best. Because if you're in, like, a land ramp deck and you're in red, then both modes are going to just be amazing. Like, if you're not relying on mana dorks and you don't have any mana rocks, you're going to be good. It's just all upside every single time, no matter what. I think this card will not be that popular, though, outside of, like, CDH. Just because it, like, if you are not in green and you are running mana rocks, then you're going to be like, oh, well, this can hit my mana rocks, so therefore I will not play this. And I think that's, like, somewhat valid because, like, if you have enough mana rocks, and odds are you're going to lose something out of it. But it was going to also just be a shame. It's kind of like Farewell, you know, like how everybody keeps saying, like, how good Farewell is, but then nobody actually runs it because, like, well, what if it exiles my stuff?
No, only if it's only Richard that is like actively. But what if it hits my stuff? Me, I will give my Soul Ring to set everybody back, right?
Yeah. It makes sense too, right? But, like, I wouldn't run to my artifact deck, for example, because that mode is just going to blow me out every single time.
I think there's a workaround, though, where you can have your cake and eat it too, and the answer is just play more Hedron Archives. Mana Rocks
yeah.
survive the 3 or less mana value. So load up on Hedron Archives. You get to ramp and blow up everyone's Mana Rocks.
Seth's
Or
cooking
Teferi's
right now.
Protection. Just Teferi's Protection in response to Brothers Who Die. And then it's just all fly.
But what if you get dinned out of this or whatever?
Oh.
Nick Callis.
Disciple, yeah. What if someone disciples you?
Yeah. I think it's really sweet. I think it deserves a lot of play. But yes, please don't play this against my artifact deck. Moving on though, there's a card that I'm slamming into my artifact deck, speaking of, and that is Portal to Phyrexia. This is a whopping 9 mana artifact, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent sacrifices 3 creatures. Then, at the beginning of your upkeep, put target creature card from a graveyard onto the battlefield under your control. It's a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. So, very expensive artifact, but immediately gets a ton of value. It's asymmetrical, kind of like a board wipe, essentially. Like, if you're not against a go wide, like, tokens deck, you're going to be eating 3 creatures per opponent. And so if they don't have like 1/1 tokens to be sack fodder to this, you're going to be hitting like commanders and their best creatures, and it's powerful. It's basically a colorless board wipe at that point, or for creature board wipe at that point. And then if it sticks around every single upkeep, you get a free reanimation, not just your own graveyard, but anybody's graveyard. That just seems like extra value. But I think this card is like, that ETB trigger is where it's really at. The fact that you get immediate value for it, and then if you can like blink it or anything, or like sacrifice it and reanimate it that way, it's going to be amazing. 9 mana is a lot, but it's an artifact, so that means, just like green, where like mana value doesn't really matter. This is like, if you're in red, you can easily just put this onto the battlefield for free. Goblin Welder, for example, says you can sacrifice an artifact or return an artifact you can from your graveyard to the battlefield. So if you have any way to loot it into your graveyard, which red has plenty of ways of doing, you can get it that way. Dreadhorde is another way of getting it directly onto the battlefield. Trash for treasure. Yeah, you could just Jeska's Will to just make a lot of mana and get
Power Stones, yeah. Power Stones, like
Okay,
Power Stones.
intended.
You can ramp it like a honest
down,
gamer. White also has like tons of ways. Yeah. White has like tons of ways of just returning all your artifacts from the graveyard. If you're in Boros, there's like Wake the something. The artifact is just like return all artifacts here to the battlefield. Like there's a lot of ways of cheating on this mana, and then like you just cheat this into play. You just destroy everybody's board presence, and then you just casually just reanimate creatures. It seems really good and flashy. I like it.
I think it's really cool, although I think you got to be in a specific deck. It's not a card I would jam in just any deck. You really got to have, I think, a plan for cheating into play for me to be interested in it, because 9 mana it's a big ask, especially considering... Yeah. Dreadhorde, Metalworker, the stuff that Tomer has been saying. Mm-hmm. But I think, I don't think I would just jam this in a generic deck and hope to get value out of it. What about, like, the other place where it seems good is a graveyard deck, like where you're actively filling a graveyard, like a Sidisi style deck or something. Can you play it in a deck like that, or is it just too expensive? Like, what if you don't have a Dreadhorde or a Welder or something to get it into play? Could you throw it into Madrotha or throw it into Sidisi, or is it just like 9 mana is too much?
So for like a Muldrotha and Sidisi deck, like I don't think I'd be playing that in there, just because, you know, I could just play Rise of the Dark Realms, right? I don't think I care about the making you sack 3 part. However, in a colorless deck like Tomer had mentioned, this card is cracked, and on top of that, I absolutely love the fact that it becomes a Phyrexian. Like that is so cool flavor wise. But other like Sidisi decks, it's a lot of mana. Having had a Sidisi deck, I don't see a reason for this. I can do Rise of the Dark Realms, and I can also do pretty much everything for a lot cheaper than what this is asking for. This is primarily going to be an artifact style deck. Although, like, something that would be great is like that new Warhammer precon, the black one. I think this could definitely go in there. If you've got like this mono black, or like just this, because it's kind of cool. It feels like you could almost make like a artifact reanimator style deck, and that would just be sweet, right? That's just not something you normally think of.
It seems.
What about?
Oh, go ahead.
I was thinking like mono green big mana decks. You know, like green generally doesn't have creature board wipes. And if you make enough mana that 9 mana is like totally irrelevant to you, like, I don't know, that seems kind of sweet. Like if you're like a Titania deck or something that makes tons of mana very, very quickly, or Zusa, you know, what you need some ways of wiping opposing creatures. That might be I don't know. Maybe they have enough. Maybe green has enough creature removal at this point that you don't need this, but it could be fun.
Yeah. I wonder.
I mean,
how good the removal mode is. I'm always skeptical of edicts just because of like tokens and kind of like useless permanents,
edicts
especially on turn 9.
Edicts are great. You need to stop hating on edicts. They're great. Trust in the edict.
I never see you play edicts. You always talk a big edict game, but you never edict me, Krim.
What are you talking about?
I mean, I'm putting into my mech set in there.
Only killing things.
What about Blink decks? Because the place I want to play this, and I think it was Phil, who's not here this week because he's out in Orlando, but Phil was selling us hard on this being a good card for Blink decks. If you can blink it every turn, then the Edict effect is going to be not just a Wrath, but like a permanent Wrath. You just keep wrathing away whatever your opponents happen to play. You kind of lock creatures out of the game once it gets going with Teleportation Circle or Brago or something. The mana cost scares me a little bit, though. Like, how do I make this work in my Brago deck or Krim, your Aminatu deck? Can you make this work in your Aminatu deck? Or is 9 mana just, like, too much, even though it's going to be absurd if you get this on the battlefield with Aminatu and can blink it every turn?
I mean, if I'm going to do that, right, I would just do what I already kind of do, which is blinking Liliana, Dreadhorde General.
Yeah, I guess that's similar. Yeah.
That's 3 less.
Yeah.
And it plays with the Super Friends, right? So I don't know. I think this is a lot. It is very much a one kind of like archetyped, one kind of deck thing, and it is a lot of what Tomer mentioned earlier. So you're going to need metal workers and things like that, where this isn't really 9 mana. This is like 4 mana.
I think, there's like one other one that I don't run this card anymore, but it's a Master Transmuter. You pay 1, you tap it, you replace, you bounce an artifact from the battlefield to your hand, and you put an artifact from your hand onto the battlefield.
Oh yeah,
I don't really run that card that much anymore, but it was like a pseudo way of ramping out big things. Yeah. And this would be like silly with it, actually.
Arkham Daxon could also
take advantage
of it. Yeah.
But so again, that's like a specific deck, right? Like that's this isn't going in any deck.
Artifact
this is going in an artifact deck.
Yeah, and my Melkton and Galdr deck is led by Brutaclad most of the time these days. So I have Goblin Welder, I have the Ready, and I have Arkham Daxon in there. I also have Kuldrotha, Forge Master, all these ways of just putting it directly onto the battlefield for like very little investment. So yeah, I'm super psyched for it. I feel like you're going to be arch enemy, but also like, what are you going to do about it? All your creatures are dead. Yeah. I could be arch enemy all day, baby. So I'm very excited for it. But yeah, we'll move on to Seth, your second card. Oh boy, I think this is going to be probably one of like the major standouts from this set.
Definitely one of the coolest designs from the set, which is Awake in the Woods. Double green and X sorcery. You make X 1/1 green Forest Dryad land creature token. So essentially, you make X Dryad Arbors, is what they like literally are. If you've ever seen Dryad Arbor being a land and a creature, this card is so cool. So on level 1, it's kind of a ramp spell. It's a risky ramp spell, but if you think about it, Explosive Vegetation or Migration's Path, any of those, 4 mana, you're getting plus 2 mana. You're getting 2 lands on the battlefield. If you cast this for 4 mana, you're getting plus 2 lands on the battlefield. So it already is like on rate kind of playable, even though there is a risk that your Dryad Forest get Wrath or something. But still, like, the amount of ramping it does is pretty impressive. And then it scales throughout the game. But the really exciting part about this card is it also essentially just says trigger landfall X times. So if you have a Scoot Swarm, or you have Omnath as your commander, or Asai or Tetyova, anything like that, you are just going to go off. And the rate on this isn't bad when you consider that the most efficient way to make tokens, I think, is Secure the Waste, which is 1 white and X at instant speed. This is only 1 more mana at sorcery speed. In Commander, in a green deck, you can very easily get up to 10 mana, 12 mana, and just be putting so many lands on the battlefield, which is an absurd number of landfall triggers. So I think this card is just really sweet. I would consider playing it in in token decks as a ramp spell that works with the theme of my deck. If I'm playing Doubling Seasons or any of these token payoffs, I would maybe consider it as a ramp spell in generic decks, even though I think it's kind of bad if you don't have synergies for it. And I would definitely consider it in landfall decks. And then you get other synergies where, like, these creatures are lands, so you can play destroy all non-land permanence effects, like Hour of Promise or something, and still keep your creatures on the battlefield. I just think it's a really, really cool card.
I agree. I think this card is gas. And yeah,
so
it's
good.
tokens and landfall. I don't think I'd use it as generic ramp just because, I don't want it to be able to be wrath, but in a landfall deck like this is, if you're going to play this, either it puts you ahead or it finishes the game, depending on the board state. It's like never going to be bad. It's never going to sit in your hand and you're going to be sad about it in a landfall deck and in a tokens deck as well. Like, yeah, if you don't have your Doubling Season out already, then whatever. But like, it's not bad by itself, and then it just gets absurd when you have a little bit of setup.
Oh, ridiculous!
Yeah, I mean,
Crim, do you love it?
It's a green card. It does what green does.
But as far as green cards go, Crim, give us a tier list ranking.
I mean, it's miserably green, so it's pretty high up there, right? Like, so it will do what you want, and on top of that, it's like now, like, well, not only are you ramping, you're beating me down with your ramp, so why not, right? Please kill me sooner, like, please.
You did
it's
play
a good card.
Nissa. You played this in your Nicol Bolas deck, so would you put this in your...
Yeah, of course not at all, because at all.
There's
I don't know
also
what you're talking about.
The other place this I think is really good that we didn't mention is like commanders that just care about the number of lands on the battlefield. Like, we got the new Titania, which when you flip it around, its power and toughness is equal to the number of lands you control. Or what's the 5-drop that turns all your creatures into forests? Ashaya? Things like that that care about just the mass number of lands on the battlefield. This is a really good effect for those style decks too.
Yeah, I expect to see this showing up a great deal and be one of the bigger standouts of the set. Like, it just has the power floor is really high. The power ceiling is exceptionally high. So, and it's flashy.
The card is a house. The card is is definitely a house.
Also expect it to be sadly expensive. It's like $15 now, and boy, I'm tempted to just like grab a copy now for my deck because I'm not convinced that it won't go up in the future.
But funny enough, I'm not tempted at all.
That's the upside of hating green.
Yeah. I just don't have to buy these expensive cards. It's great.
Yep. All right, moving on. Ooh, Crim, you've got something outside of standard. What would you like to share for us? So
I would like to share Seth's favorite, Transformer, because it's Soundwave, the Sonic Spy, which I actually opened in my packs. I even got the token with it. Look how cool it is. I got the laser beak. It's so cool. So like, this card is just one Esper. It has more than meets the eye. You may cast this card converted for 2 in Esper. Whenever one or more creature tokens you control deals combat damage to a player, exile target instant or sorcery card with mana value equal to the damage dealt from their graveyard. Copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. If you do, convert Soundwave. That's the front side. Okay, so now the back side. Whenever you cast a spell with an odd mana value, convert Soundwave. If you do, create a Ravage, a legendary 3/3 black robot creature token with Menace and Death Touch. And whenever you cast a spell with an even mana value, convert Soundwave. If you do, create Laserbeak, a legendary 2/2 blue robot creature with token, with flying and hexproof. Okay. Now, have fun explaining that to everyone at the table numerous times. Anyways, however, this card is sweet, not only just because it's a Transformer, actually heavily, yes, and because it's my favorite one. So, not only is Soundwave a dope like Transformer to have, it as a card is pretty cool because I have a Shadrix token deck. And I am now going to change my Shadrix to Soundwave because this adds a whole new fun element to tokens. Because what do I love more than beating people down with tokens and random tempo creatures? Getting to cast their things. And let me tell you that I love that because I get to mill. I get to play tokens. I get to play a Layla and not get yelled at for being an Enchantress deck. I am on board. This is sick. This card is so
That's
sick.
So much reading for such a bad card.
Can you just TLDR? What does it do again? Like my brain just like actually shut down when you were reading the card.
Simply put, Soundwave, you now get to floss on your opponents and let them know, haha, what up? I'm playing a Transformer card in your fantasy game. Oh, yeah. You floss, and then you like transform in a fantasy game. What up?
Okay, isn't that more Fortnite than Transformers? I'm so confused.
Yeah, but Fortnite is what Magic's based off of.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
So like
it's
you got to
the model.
remember that.
It's the marketing model.
Magic
that it's
is a spin-off. It's an offshoot of Fortnite. So
when do we get Goku?
Dude, soon. And so I get to not only floss, I get to cast your spell. And then when I flip over into my cassette player, a.k.a. the backside, Superior Captain, I get to then make a token. 2 tokens that are super sick. Whenever I cast an odd... Like, I get one specific token if I cast an odd spell, and then a different token on an even spell. And it's so cool, because then you get to copy... like, oh, they're legendary tokens, but it's okay. We can get around that. So it's so sick.
So I will say, as a non-Transformers fan, just evaluating this as a playable piece of cardboard in Magic, I feel like it's pretty bad because that first ability, it's not damage equal to or less than. You have to deal like the exact amount of damage, right? So if you want to cast a 5-mana sorcery, you need to deal literally exactly only 5 damage. You can't deal 6, you can't deal 7. So it seems like it's going to be, and your opponent has to have something of that mana value in the graveyard. So the front half, it seems challenging to actually cast your opponent's spells for free with it. Like, it seems like you're going to have to do some serious manipulation and work to get in the right amount of damage. Or am I misunderstanding this huge wall of text?
No, you aren't misunderstanding the wall of text, but what you are misunderstanding is how little you have to convince me to play mill and beat people down.
That's true.
And if I get to be a transformer in your fantasy game to add additional sodium, I am here for it.
But isn't what's going to happen though if you attack and your opponent's like, oh, like, I'll take a hit from one more token, so then you dealt one too many damage, and now you don't get to cast my ultimatum for free from my doesn't it seem very hard to actually get to cast spells for free with this, or no?
It's not too bad because I think you don't cast it for its front side, you cast it for its back side, right? Okay. So you cast it for its back side, and then hopefully you cast something that makes the token, so you flip it over to the front side, and now you have both the tokens they make is either menace or flying. So, and they have death touch too. So
one is flying, hexproof. The other is death touch, menace.
So
right?
They're not stuff that you can easily block. I mean, you could chump the menace a little bit easier, but you lose 2 tokens out of that.
Yeah, like the thing here is I don't care about the front side. The front side is just an additional, like an additional value, right? What I'm caring about is essentially I get to now play. Yeah, I'm all about the cassette tape. I'm gonna get to play Monastery Mentors and like things like that, right? That's the whole point of the deck. I want to make a ton of tokens. Yeah. And I know that the tokens are legendary, so you can easily like just like blow it up and then whatever. It doesn't matter. The point here is that I just want to make some tokens and I want to make a actually, it's mostly just the Transformers side, but on top of that, I get to cast some spells for free along the way. And if you're milling the opponents, even if I got to cast something, let's say I wanted to deal 7 damage to cast your ultimatum, and then you're like, you know what? I'm gonna take 1 more damage. Well, if you have an 8 mana cost card in there, you probably don't want me to cast that. If I cast a 6 or 5, whatever, I still got to cast something for free, and I don't hate that at all because I'm already doing what I need to do, right? Which is apply a board with a bunch of tokens and beat you down with it.
So I think if you're aggressively milling people, then it makes more sense to me. I see what you're saying. You're just like, I'm just going to mill so much that I'm going to hit you for some amount of damage and trust that I'm going to get to cast something. So it's not so much about casting something in specific. It's more like if I fill your graveyard enough, no matter what amount of damage I deal to you, as long as it's not like 20 or something ridiculous, like I should be able to cast it and get value. I think Mirror Box is sweet too, to keep your tokens around. That might be an option. Like try to get around the legend rule a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And if you're already hitting for somebody for 20, I don't think I need to cast a spell, right?
The real question though, Krem, you got this in paper, right? Are there official Soundwave and Laserbeak tokens or no?
Yeah. So,
Yeah,
so this is the Laserbeak token. I don't have the Ravage one, but I do have the Laserbeak one.
Is it dunking on a basketball net?
It's sitting on a basketball hoop, so you get to dunk on people, dude.
Oh my god.
That is the most crim thing I've ever heard.
And you reap the salt of Transformers.
Is this going to come to Moto? Please, Moto.
No. You know. We all know the answer. That's not coming to...
Come on, Moto, please.
I think it's neat without being like overpowered. So
yeah, none of them are busted.
Thumbs up. Yeah, none of them are busted actually. But anyway, we'll move on to my second pick, and this one I'm very excited for. This is Blast Furnace Hellkite. It's a 9 mana, so very expensive. 9 mana dragon, 5/5, but it has Artifact Offering. An Artifact Offering is a callback to the original Kamigawa offering cycle, which says you may cast the spell as though it has flash by sacrificing an artifact and paying the difference in mana value or mana cost between this and the sacrifice artifact. Mana cost includes color. So if you sacrifice a 5 mana cost artifact, then you just have to pay the difference, which would be 4. Yes, you would have to only pay 4, and you get to cast it at instant speed, which is really nice. And so it's a 5/5 flying double strike. Creatures attacking your opponents have double strike. So if you are attacking your opponents, you get double strike. And if your opponents are attacking anybody but you, they also have double strike. If they attack you, they don't get double strike. So I like this card as both a very flashy, cool combat finisher for actually a couple different decks. 9 mana is a lot. Like if you're hard casting this for 9, you probably have better options. But I really like this in my artifact deck. Surprise, surprise. There's a lot of artifacts that like cost a lot of mana and want to be sacrificed. Like Spine of Ishsa is 7 mana, ETB, destroy a non-land permanent, and then when it's sacrificed, it goes back to your hand. So you could offer that to the Hellkite and then only cast it for 2 mana. That's really cool. Or there's stuff that have high mana values but aren't actually that expensive because they have like affinity for artifacts, for example, and you can sacrifice those things and get that value out of the Hellkite. And I also have a Perfos Dragon deck, which I have no intention of paying 9 mana to cast it. I'm going to cheat into play, sneak attack it into play for 3 mana instead. And then boom, my team has all double strike and it's hitting for 10 damage by itself. It seems really good. It's really like Avatar Slaughter, which was my favorite card when I started playing Commander. It came in the Zedger precon, I think, or maybe it was the Kalia one. Either one. It was like 8/8. It was 8 mana 8/8 Avatar. Krim thought it was an angel.
Yeah.
Oops, a daisy.
I know.
But it's not. It's an Avatar. And all creatures have double strike and attack each combat if able, but that means they can attack you and then you just die and then you're sad. This one is just, it's all upside, and I like it. It's really cool.
You know, I could actually, tutor this one up with Kalia, to play for Kalia. So.
Yes, you can actually play, actually cheat this with the play of Kalia. So, strict upgrade to Avatar Slaughter.
Wow.
Yeah.
The ability to read the card does explain the card. Wow.
I mean, this card's just going to kill people, right? Like, even outside of giving your team double strike, can't you just wait until your opponents are attacking each other and flash this in and essentially let someone die after blocks? It seems pretty easy to cheat this in with Embercleaves or Affinity stuff. There's so many artifacts that get these they have high mana values, but get a big cost reduction, so you can get them on the battlefield. They're like the Great Henge, something like that, where you can be casting this easily for like 2 mana, 3 mana, and just absolutely wrecking people. This card seems so brutal. Like, yeah, in a dedicated artifact deck, it seems good, but you got mana rocks. Like, I could see playing this outside of dedicated artifact decks just to get the combat damage wins.
I'm going to shout out Richard because he's the one who kind of converted the group to it. But Coveted Jewel, can you imagine? You Coveted Jewel, you tap this for 3 red, you sacrifice it to the Blast Furnace Hellkite, and you cast it for free. After drawing 3 cards.
That's just
So good.
The value.
Yeah, I think this card's really scary. I kind of overlooked it, but wow, this card is something.
Yeah, it's fun. And I as someone who's like becoming more aggressive as I keep playing Commander, I very much value just stuff that is like, now you die. enjoy Dirtling, but it's over now.
I think
you die.
Going to events like Magic 30 have convinced me that I need to keep being more aggressive because people want to play games, and if you sit down and play a 3-hour game with one group, that's just less games you can get through. So I need more like people just die so I can play with the next group of people that want to play decks.
I play like Perforos and Tribal exclusively at almost exclusively at Magic 30 just because it was like, there's a lineup. I need to get to the next game.
I was doing it wrong. I got everyone standing around watching it. I'm like, okay, Yarok, evoke a Muldrifter, blink the Muldrifter, draw 4.
Attack you for 2.
Hit you for 2. Your go.
I played a lot of Zevlor. I really got to know a lot of people's decks in game. Thought seizing. I was like, yo, hey, I get to see your hand.
Gross. But anyway, moving on from Blast Furnace Hellkite, except your third pick.
All right. I have the single most stapley card, I think, from this entire release, and that is Lauren of the Third Path. It's a card that I honestly have been wondering for years why this card doesn't exist. And it is literally a white version of Reclamation Sage, a 3-mana 2/1. When it ETBs, you can blow up an artifact or enchantment, except it gets some upgrades. It has Vigilance, and if you want to, you can tap it, and you and an opponent each draw a card. I've always wondered, with white being one of the best colors, primary colors for blowing up artifacts and enchantments, it's the disenchant color, going back all the way to Alpha. Why does green get the Rec Sage effects and white doesn't? White gets worse versions of Rec Sage. Well, now we finally have one, and I feel like if you're some sort of white deck, you just play this every time, and it's going to be good, just like you would with Rec Sage in a green deck. Like, it's just a really good effect. And I think that last mode, when you evaluate this in terms of 60-card Magic, you don't want to tap and give each player a card very often. That's something that's pretty rare.
What?
In Commander, though, I think it's actually pretty good. As we've seen with, like, Secret Rendezvous, you have control over this. You can choose Krim, who's mana screwed and isn't really a threat to hurt you if he gets an extra card. Or maybe you can curry favor with Krim, who's mana screwed, by helping him get the land he needs to actually play Magic, and you're going to be friends for the rest of the game. So I think there's actually a lot of value with this in Commander in specific once it's on the battlefield, and it's even got Vigilance. So if you're playing equipment, you can chip in with it and hit someone and get your sword trigger, and then still tap it to draw a card. Or you can wait until the end step before you go to tap it to draw a card, so your opponents aren't going to get advantage of it during their main phase. So I think this card is just legitimately great. I'm not at all interested in playing it as my commander. No. But in the 99, I think this is just an amazing card, like a true staple for white decks.
Yeah. I mean, right? Like, this is just a flat out, pretty simply put, just a great card. It's, if everyone already plays Rec Sage, why not play a Rec Sage that can also potentially help draw a ton of cards?
Yeah.
Yep. I think it's just, it's a card that's going to see a ton of play. Obviously, really good to blink. It's a legendary, so like it even is better in white, I think, because white has like ways of tutoring up legendaries and stuff.
Call.
Yeah.
It's historic, so like triggers Teshar or whatever. It's untitanable for sure. So there's a lot of inherent synergies, Florin, especially in white.
It's not historic.
Also a human, too, Arena, which is relevant for tribal decks.
I also like that it is secret tech, or not so secret tech, against Thoracle. Because if somebody has the Dasa's Oracle trigger on the stack, you can draw them a card and they die.
Yeah.
So you actually have to kill Lauren. If Lauren can tap and you want a Thoracle, you actually have to kill Lauren first before you can Thoracle, which is very... It's like a cool little safeguard there.
You think that means this is CEDHable?
I don't know. Maybe.
That
doesn't seem bad.
Maybe. I don't know if I want to draw anybody in CDH a card, though.
Yeah, I mean, even just like the Rec Sage, if you choose not to do it, though, even just the Rec Sage is good.
You know what? I think it's not too bad even to just draw somebody a card. Like, if they just got, like, they comboed off and they got stopped, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
I don't know. You're safe to give them one card and then lose to, like, Underworld Breach or something. I don't know, but, like...
It blows up the Underworld Breach. It's so good.
That's true. You blow up their Underworld Breach and then you're like, I'm sorry I blew up your breach. Here's a card.
Here's a card, yeah.
Not if you're the reason how they got that there. Like they've already used it, right? Like, oh.
Yeah. I think this card's solid. But another card that I think is solid is on Krim's list. What do you got for us?
Teresian Mind Breaker. That's right. It is a...
Wait, I didn't think this card was solid. Never mind, I take it back.
Well. I mean, I have a few, but like I wanted to go with Terizian's. Okay.
At least it's not a transformer. I'll give it that.
It's not a transformer.
It kind of transforms,
but it is a giant robot. Terizian Mindbreaker is a 7 mana 6/4. When it attacks, defending player mills their half their library rounded up, and it has Unearth. Yo, dude, this is so sick. I already liked my gigantic, like, fleet swallowing fishy boy. Why am I not going to play this giant transformer juggernaut? It's milling, it's chilling, it's killing. I love this thing. It's so cool. It does exactly what I wanted to do. And it's a big Timmy robot. Like, how cool is that? That's exactly what I love. And before anyone says it, Mill is miserable. I know. And that's why
Grim plays
it. Yeah.
Better than Sword of Body and Mind.
Yo, okay, hold on. Nothing's better than Sword of Body and Mind.
Really?
Yo.
I think this card's actually kind of good in Mill because of the Unearth. Like, you wouldn't want this outside of a Mill deck, unless Krim maybe would want it because he's Krim. But most people wouldn't want it outside of a Mill deck. But in a Mill deck, the part that scares me is the Unearth is only 4, and it rounds up. So if you're playing something like Burvac, and you can get this in the graveyard on turn 2, and then just like play Burvac or Fraying Sanity, and then Unearth this, you just kill someone, right? Like, and it even rounds up, so it's like guaranteed. It's not a round down like Xander or something. So you literally are guaranteed to just kill someone on turn 4 with this Unearth with Burvac or Fraying Sanity, which is kind of absurd.
It's just a better traumatize on the graveyard, right?
But I still love Xander, so.
Yeah. I mean, you just paired this with a doubler effect, mill doubler like Bruvac or Fraying Sanity or whatever, and that's lethal, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's very good. I don't think I'd run it outside of a mill deck, but like it's good.
But okay, but I would play it in like a Grixis artifact deck as big robot.
Would you run it in Rogues?
Ooh, it'll turn out all your Rogues, Krim. 8 or more cards in the graveyard. You did it.
I do like that. I do, and if I think about it, like nothing is more sneaky than Rogues getting into a giant robot. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty subtle. Yeah, okay, I can get down with that. I think this is kind of cool. I'll try it. Because, in all honesty, along the way when you're milling with Rogues, I'm pretty sure I do some self-mill too. So, why not? I love this card.
Okay.
It's just cool. It's just a cool giant robot that mills.
It is.
I'm sorry. It's very bare bones. It's on the nose, but like it's very much so what I love doing. Give me giant like Gundam. Give me mill. I love it. I'm on board.
It is a Juggernaut. I feel like Juggernaut is an underutilized card type. We need to have some more Juggernauts in the game.
We need Juggernaut Tribal. Where's our commander for Juggernaut Tribal? Get on that, Watsy.
That's coming with our X-Men Secret Lair when we get Juggernaut.
What's the difference between Juggernaut and Construct? Because we have like 8/8 constructs, and then we have Juggernauts.
What's the difference between any artifact creature types in Magic? I have never been, other than Mirror.
Well, Transformers are robots, obviously, because they're in disguise.
Actually, no, they're in disguise, so they're not robots. You don't know that, so or else they would be failing that slogan.
Well, I mean, I guess WotC has failed because they labeled them robots, but...
Oh, no. Now the internet knows.
The backside is vehicle, so... Anyway, we'll move on from Juggernauts and Constructs and robots to my third pick, which is a commander that I'm very excited to build around. It's just mono black Edric. It's Gix, Yawgmoth Praetor, and hopefully this won't be soft banned from the table. It's a 3 mana, 3/3 legendary creature Phyrexian Praetor. Whenever a creature deals combat damage to one of your opponents, its controller may pay 1 life. If they do, they draw a card. And it also has a big ol' activated ability. You can pay 7 mana, 4 and triple black, and discard X cards. Exile the top X cards of target opponent's library. You may play lands and cast spells from among cards exiled this way without paying their mana costs. Ooh la la. So, it's literally just mono black Edric. You play a bunch of dumb evasive beaters. You hit people. You lose life. You draw cards. Your opponents don't want to attack you because they want to draw that sweet, sweet card draw, baby. So they attack each other, which just works in your favor. You draw a ton of cards. You have a reliquary tower or whatever on the battlefield. You discard your stupidly large hand of like 20 cards or whatever. You play all of the cool stuff off your opponent's library, and you just have a fun time. It's just fun. It's just fun for the table. It's Edric. I love Edric.
I think this card is awesome.
It is awesome. It definitely is super awesome. My question for you, though, Tomer, is how good is it? Because one of the things I remember from when we soft banned Edric was the play pattern was like, play unblockable 1-drops, play Edric, hit you, draw a ton of cards, time warp, do it again, and then time stretch, do it again. Like, is this going to be as powerful as Edric, or does being mono black kind of like a little bit limit how snowbally it is?
The latter.
It's way worse. Yeah, it's way worse than Edric because it doesn't have counter magic. It doesn't have green ramp. Like, it doesn't have mana dorks, which are amazing in Edric, and it doesn't have time walks, which are like that was my primary win condition, is just time walks. You don't get to interact with me because I just never stop taking extra turns. This one is like very fair. Like, I think you need to have like ways of protecting Gix, and there's going to be less evasive beaters that you can have at 1 mana than if you're in Simic and you don't have any counter magic and you don't have extra turns. So it's very fair, and you lose life. Like, I mean, if you lose a ton, if you're like at 10 or something, you can't just keep drawing cards off Gix and not worry about it. But even all that caveats in mind, I still think it's a powerful commander.
It does look super fun to play with. It just looks like so much fun. You get the villainous wealth of casting your opponent stuff. And one thing we've learned about cards like this is your opponents aren't going to attack you. Like, once you play this, they're all going to attack each other because they're going to want to draw cards. So it's actually like oddly good defense in its own really strange way once it's on the battlefield. Unless
you just deny the value. You don't fall for the greed. You punch the Gix player or the Edric player, and you don't let their tactics fool you.
Seth, will you deny card draw? No, if I played Gix on the battlefield, and you had
of course not. Like, I'm drawing cards.
You draw cards
every time.
Dangling the golden carrot in front of Seth. Me, I am blind to the value. I will punch the Edric player.
No, the rogues, you go wide. You have so many evasive beaters. I'm just helping you, Krim. Just
yeah. Oh, well, I didn't think about that.
Attack our enemies. We could be friends.
No, get out of here, Edric. Never fall for the Edric tricks, and I will never fall for the Gix tricks.
Everybody says they never fall for the Edric tricks, and then they always fall for the Edric tricks. So
it's funny. That is fair. When I saw this card, it reminded me of both of you, honestly, because the Edric part definitely reminded me of like, oh, that's something that Tomer's going to build around. But then to like steal all the stuff off your opponent's deck, that's like very crimmy. So I figured you guys were going to be battling it out to see who got to play this one when we do Brothers War Commander Clash Week.
This was on my list of what I wanted to talk about, but then I saw Tomer had it, so then I was like, okay, I can't.
Well, we talk about it together.
Yeah,
so
that's
all
true.
Good.
It's us. It's us.
There is a very big overlap between my style and Krim's style here. Like, this is like a mesh of both. So yeah, very cool. I can't wait to at least, it's going to be on Commander Clash 100%. Like, if we do
between
an
you
episode
and
on Brothers War,
he will make
one of us. Yeah. It will be on that guy. Yeah, absolutely. We will move on to Seth, your fourth pick.
So Phil's not here this week.
Round.
Phil's not here this week, so I gotta give a Phil card in honor of Phil. Although I actually do think this card's pretty sweet, and that card is One with the Multiverse. It's a 6-mana enchantment. You can look at the top card of your library. You can play cards off the top of your library, and once during each of your turns, you can cast a spell from your hand or the top of your library without paying its mana cost. So this is Future Sight mixed with a little bit of Omniscience, essentially. It's very much a Phil card. It's this huge value-y cast stuff for free style card, but I actually think this card's pretty sweet. When I first saw it, I was like, all right, Future Sight's 5 mana. We also have like Reality Chip, which I think is even cheaper than Future Sight. There's many ways to cast cards off the top of your deck that are much less mana. But then the more I thought about this card, I actually think this might be one of the better of the effects, because if you can get to 8 mana, you can cast this and you immediately get a free spell. So you can follow that up with something big, either off the top of your deck or from your hand. So it kind of in a weird way reduces its cost, because if you would have spent that mana on your other thing, it whatever, it wouldn't have worked out. So I think this is actually a pretty powerful Future Sight style effect. And then one of the things I love about it is the way you fizzle casting cards off the top of your library is to eventually hit something that you can't cast, and being able to cast one spell for free. Maybe you hit something really expensive that you don't have the mana for. Well, you can use that as your free spell for the turn to keep digging further and further into your library. So I think it's just like a really fun, really flashy top-end card. I don't think it's going to be miserable like Omniscience. I don't think it's just immediately wins you the game. It's only one free spell each turn. So I think it's a neat card that we're going to see Phil play a lot in his Simic ramp style piles. And plus all the Future Sight combos also work with this. If you want to do Sensei's Divining Top Loops and that kind of stuff, any of those combos also work with one with the Multiverse.
I love this card. I think this card is amazing. It's going right. Like my question to you is, it's cool right now, right? Like, you like it, but how long until you get tired of seeing this? Because I think this card is very good. I love it. I plan on having Doctor Strange altered onto this. So, I definitely.
I know who that is now because of Marvel Snap, Krim. You made me learn. I know what you're talking about. You did it.
He gets pop culture references now.
You heard it. YouTube Seth knows what an X-Man is.
It took like 250 podcast episodes, but you won, Krim. You won.
Who is the X-Man?
Now, before anyone yells at me in YouTube, he's not an X-Man. I know, but that's like almost an X-Man.
That's as close as it gets when it comes to me.
It's adjacent.
I don't think this is a miserable card, is it? Yeah. Like, is this unfun? I feel like Omniscience is unfun. Future Sight effects, I think, are fine. I've never really got upset about Future Sight effects. I feel like the once per turn restriction is going to make this okay. So I don't think I'm going to end up finding this one miserable the way I find Omniscience a little bit miserable. So I don't think it's ever going to happen. I don't know. What do you think, Tomer? Is this a card that could end up unfun in the long run, or is 8 mana and only once per turn enough safety valves to keep it fun?
I don't think you'll see it that often. Like, it's 8 mana, it's an enchantment. Enchantments are a little bit harder to generally like get onto the battlefield by cheating it into play. Like artifacts are.
There's no goblin
there
welder
are a couple
or whatever.
ways.
Yeah,
there's no goblin welder. There's like the thing that when it dies, the white creature, when it dies, you can put an enchantment onto the battlefield.
Yeah, but that's like
that can already put Omniscience. Yeah, I like the fact. I honestly do like the fact that you can cast a spell for free. So you're going to be Haymaker, Tribal, or whatever, but it's only once per turn. And yeah, the Future Sight ability is good too, but like, I don't know. I think that's fine. I think it's like more fair than like Bolus's Citadel, for example, which is significantly cheaper and can keep going.
That's true. I will say there is one way to abuse this that I found, which is if you blink it, it resets the free spell. So I've seen some people talking about Displacer Kitten. Like, you cast a non-creature spell for free, and then Displacer Kitten is going to blink it. Yeah. So it blinks the one with the Multiverse, you get another free spell and just keep going and going.
It's like, saying Displacer Kitten breaks something is like saying the Dockside Extortionist breaks something.
Edgenod's Altar or whatever. Yeah.
Which is breaking the thing? Is it the one with the Multiverse, or is it the Displacer Kitten? I'm seeing a common trend with the Displacer Kitten here.
I mean, clearly the 8-mana enchantment is the broken.
I think it's fine. Like,
so you wouldn't be upset if you saw this game after game after game after game.
I don't think I will. Like, if I did, then I'd be bored of it. But I think I'll see it. You'll see it in like Haymaker Tribal decks. You'll see it like in Joda, like old school Joda, which you pay 5 mana instead of 8. That's really good. And then whatever else can cast
Super
Haymakers.
I don't know though.
Super Friends.
I mean, if you pay 8 mana for if you play like legit 8 mana for your one with the Multiverse and Super Friends, then have at it.
I mean, we do play with Phil though. This seems like a card that Phil will put in literally every deck, everyone.
Yeah, then I'll just kill him faster. It's fine.
I guess it's like every other card.
He usually dies before he can play this.
Yeah, if he plays one with the Multiverse and I play Blast Furnace Hellcat, I wonder who's going to win that war. I think it's going to be me.
The Real Brothers War.
Fair.
Got it.
The Real Brothers War. Who will win? Somebody, one glowy boy or one big ass dragon with double strike? Yeah, I'm fine with it. Personally.
Yeah, me too.
And you can have fun. Dirtly players are allowed to have fun, but cap that once per turn.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll move on. Krim, what do you have as the fourth pick for us?
This card has, I think, been slipping under the radar. Defabricate, 1 in blue. Instant, choose one, counter target artifact or enchantment spell. If a spell countered this way, exile instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. Or counter target activated or triggered ability. So you will now, if I promise you this, if my deck has blue, I have this in Commander.
Jeez,
so now,
really?
I love this. You're telling me I can stifle somebody?
Yeah.
So that's already, I love my gotcha cards. And that's a gotcha. There's nothing more than a good old stifle. But when stifles where stifles kind of suck is like, okay, well, it only counters, an activated ability or whatever. But enchantments and artifacts aren't exactly unheard of in Commander. I'm playing this. I love this card. Mostly for the troll. It's not meant to be like oh, this is like gonna replace Counterspell or Mana Drain. Or actually, it would replace Counterspell, but it would not replace like Mana Drain or Arcane Denial. But I think this card counters a lot of things, and getting that Stifle is and it gets better in CDH obviously, but it gets a lot of stuff in Commander. Being able to just straight up stifle any effect whenever I need, if something already slipped through the cracks, because oftentimes a counterspell sucks when something slides through, right? When the table goes double spell, triple spell, whatever, right? To bait out a counterspell, you have to counter one, you're tapped down. Well, now after tapping down, I can still use this in some other meaningful way, even though you've kind of slipped through a spell.
I think this card's nice flexibility, but I do have a question for you, Krim. How would you compare the Fabricate to another counterspell that's very similar, Tail's End? Yeah, it has the same mana value, 1 blue. It's instant, counter target, activated ability, triggered ability, which is the same thing as this, or a legendary spell. So instead of legendary spell, it's the Fabricate is artifact or enchantment spell, and it exiles it.
So that's why I like this, because although I can counter your commander, there's probably usually ways I can counter a commander, right? This I like just because I can also just counter an artifact or enchantment and be done with it. I do like that. And the stifle effect is always nice. So Tail's End is really good as well, but Defabricate hitting enchantments and artifacts in a format that is heavily just skewed with just littered artifacts everywhere and enchantments, I'm on board with this. I like this. I think this card is really fun. And I as a blue player, I think that it is healthy to always have at least one stifle to keep people honest.
Yeah.
Some kind of stifle needs to be in your deck.
I feel Stifle is always like the biggest playmaker ever, but it's so situational.
Right.
That, you really need to be stapled on something that can do something else.
I feel like I never... Or I shouldn't say never, but I feel like I very rarely see the Stifle mode on these cards actually come into play. I feel like Tail's End is 90% counter a creature, and this will probably be 90% counter a artifact or enchantment, but it is an upside. And I think there are enough artifacts and enchantments, then most decks are going to have them, that it probably is, especially if you're playing a Crim style, draw go deck or whatever, that it probably is worth running.
And on top of that, the exiling, I think, is being a little bit, slept on a little, just because, artifacts, what do they always do? They always come back. I don't want that. Same with enchantments.
If you want a sleeper, I'll give you a sleeper card right now, because I was researching this card when I saw Defabricate, and I was trying to find comparisons for it. So I did a little search, and do you know a card named Illumination? There is a card. Yeah. It's an uncommon from Mirage. It is two white mana, counter target artifact or enchantment spell. Its caster gains life equal to the spell's mana value.
Oh, yeah.
So it's I think I'm going to start playing that along with my Mana Ties. I just love the white counter spells. So
in white, yes,
it is silly,
but it doesn't have the stifle.
No one expects Illumination though.
No, you don't, because you can just disenchant.
But I want my disenchants to have a timing restriction, Tomer.
And gain them life. Yeah, and gain them life at the same time. Oh boy, you heard it here first. Hashtag not MTG Finance. Illumination, new tech.
Yeah, get them now.
Yeah, I like the Fabricate a lot. I'm sweating even more for my poor artifact deck that I love. All this hate. Why? It does only fair things. But I digress. I have a fourth pick. Ooh, okay. I'll do this one. It's okay. So this is one that I have a modular Mech Titan Culture deck that's artifacts. So one side is blue red, one side is blue white, and the new blue white leader Goodbye, Shurikai. Hello. Urza, Lord Protector. It's the Azorius Urza. It's 1 white and blue for a 2/4 legendary creature, human artificer. Artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. And if you have the Might Stone and Weak Stone on the battlefield, which is a new artifact, it's a 5-mana artifact that you, when it enters the battlefield, you either draw 2 cards or target creature gets -5/5 until end of turn, and it taps for 2 mana. If you have both on the battlefield, you can pay 7 mana and meld them together to make Urza Planeswalker, which is this big old melded Planeswalker, literally the biggest Planeswalker of all time. 7 starting loyalty, so much text. Let me just, oh my god, there's so much text.
It's too small to read. It's too small. There's so much
and
text.
Soundwave is
There
what
we
we're
go.
concerned about.
But this one's actually cool. All right, this is actually
get
cool.
out of here.
Once during each of your turns, you may activate an additional loyalty ability of Urza Planeswalker. So its +2 ability is artifact, instant, and sorcery spells you cast this turn cost 2 less to cast. Its +1 is draw 2 cards and discard a card. Its 0 is create 2 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature tokens. Its -3 is exile target non-land permanent. And its -10 is artifact and planeswalker you control have indestructible until end of turn. Destroy all non-land permanents. So it does everything. It does literally everything, and you can activate it twice. So you can give all your stuff like -4 4 mana discount on your instants, artifacts, or sorceries. You can exile a thing and make some blockers. You can draw cards. You can exile, wrap the board of all of the other stuff that you control. It's super fun. It requires 2 mana, and I just love the idea of like taking 2 cards and putting them together and be like, I do the power of both. It feels very anime, you know, like you just. Yeah, I like that. It makes me happy. It releases a dopamine.
So
yes.
So do you think Urza is a strong commander? It's a card I've been trying to figure out. So the upside is the cost reduction's not bad. Like 3 mana is a little bit steep compared to Baral or something, but still it's a ram spell. It is 7 mana to meld it together. Like is that too much, or
in Commander, I think not at all. Not when you're with the deck that you're building there. If it's artifact based, come on now. 7 mana set, that's easy. That's cake. That's like, does green have ramp, right? So like, but the one thing that I do concern myself with more is not so much the cost of the 7 mana of the activation. It's the other half to get him to his Planeswalker form. That's the one I'm concerned about.
Might Stone and Weak Stone?
Yeah, because if that gets answered... like
you only
got Urza, right?
You only have eternities going,
right?
Yeah.
So I actually did play test this. I played 5 games of Urza because we just proxied it up, and I gave it because it's just replacing Shurikai as my commander, and it's not. It didn't do
How
that
many
great,
times did you flip it? Did you meld it? How many times in those 5 games?
2 times.
2 times. Okay.
One time it actually won me the game. The other times, the Might Stone and Weak Stone got exiled, and then I got of Karn and it got exiled again. I couldn't find it in time. But the point is, though, there are a lot of ways of finding it. Like in white and blue, the Might Stone and Weak Stone is very easy to find. You have Fabricate, you have Word of Invention, you have Enlightened Tutor. You have you can find it pretty consistently every single game. Yes, it can get exiled. Yes, it can be countered and all that stuff. But you flip it over and you have 2 cards that you put them together, you see, and they become a big Planeswalker.
I get that you like your plane chase sized cards. That card is great. I think that's cool. My thing here is if you build this as your commander, right? Like, are you okay with it just being the front side? That's essentially what you have to ask yourself.
It's pretty good. You know, if you're in an artifact deck, it's pretty good.
That's fine.
Right. So if you're okay with just it being a 2/4 with a reduction cost, then hell yeah, right? Yeah. Because the Meekstone part is an actual like liability, right? Because you do not get the full potential of your commander if it gets answered once, or if they attack him and then he dies. Then it's okay, big sad. Or as you had mentioned, you never find it, or you don't draw it in time. So that's the only concern I would have for it. Otherwise, hell yeah. I mean, put the 2 giant cards together.
Oh,
yes!
Wait, what? what happens if you do meld and then they Hero's Downfall your melded Planeswalker? Do you use the Might Stone and Weak Stone forever in that case too? Or does it go back to the graveyard?
It will go to the graveyard.
Okay.
Both cards go to the graveyard, and then you can choose to put Urza back into the command zone. That's how it works.
So there's plenty of ways to reanimate it. So unless you get hit by like literal exile removal, you get another shot at it probably.
And if you do flip it, you do get immediate value, right? Like you can exile a permanent if there's something super threatening, or you could just +2 times, and you could like just all your spells cost 4 less essentially. Like your instant sorceries and artifacts cost 4 less. And this is the only way to assemble my Cauldron combo in one turn, because my Shield of Cauldron and Helm of Cauldron cost 0, and my sword only costs 1. And then I've got those on the battlefield. My Astronaut's Altar costs 0, and my Altar of the Brew costs 0. So I just have to pay 1 mana to get my 5 permanents onto the battlefield and combo and win. It's that easy.
So what you're saying here is only flip it when you're ready to win the game.
With Cauldron.
Well, not win the game, just assemble Cauldron, yeah.
Or
that is win the game.
Yeah, you're right, actually.
You need Urza, you need the Might Stone and Weak Stone, you need 7 mana, and then you need Sword of Cauldron, Shield of Cauldron, Helm of Cauldron, Asheron's Altar, and Altar of the Brood, and then 1 extra mana, so you need 8 mana total, and then you win the game. It's that easy.
Yeah, you're right. Okay.
Yeah, it's so cool.
It is cool. It is. I don't know about easy, but it is certainly cool.
Yeah, it is cool. I don't know how easy that is, but yeah, that is cool.
It doesn't really work, but it's very cool.
But when it does, it's super sick.
When it will, and it will. All right. Well, we covered 4 each, so that's 12. Let's do a quick lightning round on maybe just some cards. We won't have a big discussion, but what other super exciting ones are you like hyped for playing as well? Like, let's do like one each or 2 each. We'll just see how fast we go for it.
All right. I think the Titania meld pair I think is pretty sweet as well. I think that might actually be the best of the meld pairs. If you can get some lands in your graveyard, it can flip around into a pretty mighty creature. And the thing I like about it is what you're melding it with is a land, which I think is a pretty big upside compared to a lot of other meld pairs where you need to draw 2 non-land cards, especially in green, because you can tutor up lands really easily. It's just a 3/4. You need 4 lands in your graveyard and to make it to your upkeep, and it flips into a creature with vigilance, trample, and haste, and reach, and its power and toughness is equal to the number of lands you control, and its ETB is a splendid reclamation. You reanimate all your lands, and you can pay 4 to turn a land into a 4/4 creature, essentially, permanently, not until end of turn. So I think for land matters decks, Windgrace, any sort of land graveyard shenanigan style decks, I think Titania is really sweet in the 99. And if you want to build like mono green graveyard land matters stuff, it's a pretty cool commander too. So that would be one of them. The other one I had was Ashna the Uncaring, another new commander that I think is pretty neat, although sadly I'm not expecting it to come to Magic Online because it's from the commander precons. But it's a 5 mana 1/4 Death Touch, and when you activate an ability on an artifact or a creature that wasn't a mana ability, if 1 or more permanents were sacrificed to activate it, you get to copy that ability. So it's essentially Sakamonicon, a Panharmonicon. It's Yarok before sacrifice.
There's got to be a better name than the Sakanomicon.
I'm sorry.
I am 5 years old mentally, so you cannot just say Sakanomicon and not expect me to laugh at that. Okay, so
it's like it's like a sacrifice Panharmonicon. Let's go with that. So,
I don't like this card because it doesn't work with Asheron's Altar, and that was its one job. And one job was to work with Asheron's Altar, and it fails.
Yeah, but Asheron doesn't care. The card makes that clear, Tomer.
Yeah, it doesn't care about my opinion.
So those are 2 that I'm hyped about.
Yeah,
okay.
That one's good.
It's time for me to go my lightning round. My lightning round is, of course, as the Asian Avenger, I gotta pick up another Avenger, right? So I'm going with the Sardian Avenger. I call it the Sardine Avenger. It's a 2 mana goblin. It's a first strike trample. Whenever Sardian Avenger attacks, it gets +X/+0 until end of turn, where X is the number of artifacts your opponents control. And whenever an artifact an opponent controls is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to that player. So this is just a 2 mana 1/1, and it's often I think on average, this thing is probably going to chunk a lot of people. Because what do we do all throughout the game? We make treasures, and all of that's just going to keep pumping this. And on top of that, when they crack a treasure, right, they're going to lose a life. They're going to lose life for at least whenever an artifact dies. So this comes down as First Strike and Trample. It's going to punch through a lot of things. It doesn't get chump blocked. And again, through a game, so many artifacts just get spit onto the board. So I love it for that exact reason. This thing will actually be very aggressive, and I think isn't talked about because I think it's really good at being aggressive in Commander. Like, holy cow. Imagine just dunking on the Smothering Tithe player. Like, you're going to crack the treasure? Cool, you take one.
Yeah.
Like this dunks on the Smothering Tithe, right? I mean, I don't know if it makes up for the fact that, like they're ramping in a bajillion times, but you will get aggressive, right? And they'll at the very least have to answer this. And I love that. So, you know what's great too, Telmer? If you get a Blast Furnace Hellkite with this, the little red boys, they get together, they do some double striking, you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
I love that. And then
I like it with Gryson and Torbrand too.
Yeah,
like
Torbrand.
Gyrson or whatever, that bing 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 bing, so you just turn those 1 pings into 3 pings. Like, that seems really fun in Torbrand.
God, that's so good in that deck. And then of course my other card is, of course, look, I gotta show my love for my Super Friends deck, so I am gonna go Urza Sylex here. This card is just 3 mana, 2 white activated, exile the Sylex. Each player chooses 6 lands they control, destroy all other permanents, activate only as a sorcery, and whenever it gets exiled, pay 2 mana. If you do, search your library for a Planeswalker card, put into your hand. So, hey, why not dunk on the green player? Did you accelerate absurdly farther ahead than the rest of the table? Well, come on back down. Come back down to here with us, and just only play 6 lands. It's, I think that only 6 lands is a low number for green players. They're just like, wait, what is it? Turn 4? I have 32 lands. But the nice thing about this is that it makes it so that like it's not offensive enough to where like, oh, this is LD Crim, you're a big meanie. Yeah. No, you still have 6 lands. It's just now actually dunking on somebody that's ramped farther ahead. And along the way, it's a board wipe and it pulls a Planeswalker. I love this card for my Super Friends deck. Yes, please sign me up.
I like this one. It's also fair. It's very fair.
Right? Like you're if I activate this and you're at like, let's just say 12 lands, you're going to feel pretty bad. But for the rest of the table, I actually don't even know if you feel that bad. Like, do you feel bad if you lose a ton of lands to this? Because it's
they'll be like, ooh, explain the Recolation setup. Oh, interesting.
Right. and that's fair, right? But like, if it's not like it's LD to where it's like crippling, right? You're still at 6 lands. You're playing Magic.
The non-green players will not cry.
It reminds me of Disciple, the first card we talked about, actually. Like, how it can kind of, like, slow down the green decks, but it's not going to completely stop them, so.
Yeah.
Nor does it hose everybody at the table. It just really hoses the person who's ahead on mana. But also, I mean, it also destroys all non-land permanents. So, like, it's like, it's a actual board wipe, like, so.
It would be so much...
like Oblivion Stone or something.
It would be so much more exciting if it didn't need to be in white decks. Unlike Oblivion Stone or Nev's Disc, like, you gotta play it in the color that's already really good at wrathing, which is a little bit awkward, but it still is a sweet card for Super Friends.
Yeah, if it was colorless, I would replace Oblivion Stone in a lot of my decks with it.
And I play Karn in my Super Friends decks. So.
Oh, no.
So you can get back
no.
Baby! Put it back in!
There it is. All right, very sweet. My 2 shout-outs. This one, I'm sorry, Seth, but it is just too cool to not mention. Starscream Power Hungry, new Transformer. Yeah. I just like the voice actor. I used to watch Beasties. Or no, it was Beast Wars.
Beast Wars?
No, it's Beasties.
Okay, Telmer, there's got to be a better name for that.
Canadians know. It was Beasties. He made a cameo appearance. That was how I fell in love with Star. I can't do the voice, but it's very iconic. Look it up. It's a really iconic performance.
Flavor wise, too, this card is.
This one I like. I love it. It doesn't. Seth, you would love this too because it's,
I do like the Monarch.
Yeah, it's a monarchy card. It's a four black, legendary 2/3 robot, legendary 2/3 artifact robot creature. More than meets the eye of 3, flying. Whenever you draw a card, if you're the monarch, target opponent loses 2 life. Whenever whenever one or more creatures deal combat damage to you, convert Starscream. The backside is flying Menace and haste. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, if there is no monarch, that player becomes the monarch. Whenever you become the monarch, you convert Starscream. So it's really good at getting back the monarchy for yourself if it gets stolen from you, because you turn it into a plane and you're just like zoom zoom zoom, got it back. Really good with double strike, because then you like immediately get the monarchy even on the first tap.
Ooh,
and then on the front side, once you have the monarchy, not only are you drawing an extra card from the crown, which is great, but like if you cast Peer to the Abyss or something and you draw half your deck, well, somebody dies. Like you just draw a lot of cards, and the more cards you draw, the faster all your opponents die. So you can be that person who's like obsessed with card draw, and it actually becomes a win condition on a 4-mana commander, which is great. And it has the monarchy. Seth, this is for you, Seth. You love Transformers now.
Seth Starscream?
He's
I am
Starscream.
Starscream. I will say that drain mode,
I don't know if you want to be Starscream.
that drain mode, it does kind of sound like Shieldred with a whole bunch of extra steps. Like if you want to kill someone with Peer into the Abyss, but the monarchy part's cool.
It brings monarchy into every game of Commander, and
that
on top
I
of
like.
that, flavor wise, it's so cool, right? Starscream going for the crown, going for the monarchy. I love that. So I think that's super sick, flavor wise.
I love the first hit gives the monarchy to somebody by accident. It's like he screws up his initial attack.
Right?
He acts like whoopsie, here's the crown. Oops.
Yeah, y'all need to get them to make Transformers Snap, and then I will understand what you're talking about.
Don't worry, Seth. All you need to know is Marvel Snap is a continuation of Pokemon Snap. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know.
It was the same
Take
game.
that knowledge to the bank. They just
Same
wanted to
gameplay.
remodel. That's all.
And the final card that there's so many really cool cards, but the one that I am very excited for as is it Spellslinger for life is Third Path Iconoclast. It's 2 mana, blue red, 2/1. Creature human monk. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, create a 1/1 color soldier artifact creature token. So it's not even Spellslinger. Like you can cast instants or sorcerers and triggers off that, but it also triggers off like planeswalkers, enchantments, or whatever else that's not a creature. But the idea is basically it's like a young pyromancer on steroids, because instead of just making elementals, which is pretty niche, like you have to be in an elemental deck for it to be extra spicy. This one, being artifact creature tokens, is actually super relevant in Izzet colors. Like you can trigger you can build onto affinity cards, like maybe like Reality Heist, which is not really affinity, but it is affinity, and that makes you basically like dig through time for 2 mana, and then you make another social artifact creature token off that. Metalcraft turns on very easily too. You can turn it into mana with like inspiring statuary or whatever the heck like that, which is like non-artifact convoke with artifact thingies. Like it's a lot
baby.
of it's Spellslinger token generator, but it also supports artifact synergies, which is just really cool. I like it a lot. I'm gonna put it in all my Spellslinger decks because obviously, but then like decks that care about artifacts too, then it's just like extra good, and obviously like you put a skull clamp on him and you do all that good stuff, and it's a better young pyromancer. It's good. It's good stuff.
It's gooder.
It's sweet that it triggers off the skull clamp and your equipment and stuff. Like that's a big upgrade compared to young pyromancer for sure.
Yeah,
but then Crimcast Brother Sedent and all of Tomer's dreams.
I know he's just getting me. He's getting me so good. I'm like looking at all my decks. All my decks are basically just Izzet artifact decks, and I'm like, oh no, I have a type. But yeah, so that's it for our hype list. We have even more cards that we could talk about. General thoughts on the set as a whole, both the standard collector cards, transformer cards, commander, all of them. What do you guys think about the set as a whole? Are you hyped? Not hyped?
This set, I think, like art wise, like visually, story wise, like I mean, like just card wise, I think it hits the spot of like what they're trying to go for. I love the Transformers cards. I'm still I haven't gotten to fully playtest the power of every card, but like obviously, you know, we're gonna find out. So right now, I think this set is pretty sweet. We're like a few weeks out or a week out from release, but like it looks pretty cool and it seems like it would play quite nicely. So I like it.
I'm super hyped for it. I love all the big artifacts. I love all the callbacks. There's a lot of nostalgia and like old Magic stuff in there. The meld stuff looks really neat. So, this was the set I was most hyped for when they announced all the products for this year. And I think it definitely hit the mark. It even exceeded my very high expectations.
I'm a big artifact fan, so like this definitely hit the mark. Also,
Really?
the precons.
I thought it was gonna,
surprise
I thought it was gonna
that I like.
kill magic. What? Oh wait, different artifact. Never mind. Hold on. Never mind.
Oh. No, that's Marvel Snap is going to kill Mars. But also, I really like the fact that the precons for the 30th anniversary, they made them old border precons, which is a really cool gimmick. And the fact that they're artifact themed means there's a lot of those delicious brown frames that I just can't get enough of. And I'm gonna I like the precons themselves. I don't know if I'd keep them stock because I have enough already stock precons, but I'm definitely gonna be picking up a lot of singles. Like I want that old border command tower. I want that old border Sol Ring. Give me all that, the old border arcane signal. Like give me all that stuff. Like even not just talking new cards, just talking reprints. I don't really like the colored artifact frames though. Like I don't know, like I look at the Ethereum Sculptor and it just has like a traditional blue old border. Like I feel like it should have been brown. I don't know. I don't like it in blue. It makes me feel weird. But that's my only quibble. That's my one critique of the entire set is I don't like how they did colored old border. I feel they could have done better for that. But yeah. Anyway. All right, that's it. We talked for an hour and a half, which is exactly what we aim for on these podcasts. Let us know what you are most hyped for, because obviously everybody has their own preferences, what they're most hyped for. It's not a power ranking skill. But yeah, let us know what you're most hyped for in the comments section below. If there's any new commanders you want to build, or what new cards are going to be going into your pre-existing commanders, let us know that as well. Like and subscribe as you like that sort of stuff. And we'll be back next week with who knows? We'll figure it out. All right. Bye.